Hare Krishna. So here we are again inside for another day. Today the weather is so much better outside, so maybe after one more day or maybe tomorrow we'll be able to go outside. Let me pay my respectful obeisances. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraят nastai pravesya bhadrasya nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama slokya bhakti bhavati naistiki. Amagyan Termyandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Chakshur Umilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindhubhya eva cha, patitanam pavanebhyo, vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya, Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya, Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. So continuing our reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, text, I think we were up to around about text 24. I was speaking about Indra when he would like to leave the material world, leave his gross material body. He has to reduce in size. He has to shrink. So the idea is that the ego gets to a certain size and one becomes the biggest of the big and the most important person, etc. But we know that Brihaspati is above Indra. So therefore, we do know that there are people above Indra. Therefore, if Indra wants to progress, he has to become a saint. And therefore he has to become a servant to others. And then what happens is the physical body can't grow much more beyond a certain level. And Pushkara Dweep Island is there. Then there is the ocean. And then I believe there is the Golden Land, which absorbs all matter. Therefore, one will bang one's head against this, or beyond that there is the Loka mountain range, etc., which separates Loka, the parts within this side that are lit by the sun, from Aloka, Vasha, which are the darkened parts. So, to stay within this side of Loka mountain, the demigods and Manu all have to reduce in size and actually shed their material bodies voluntarily in yoga. And we're being told of that in these verses. So this particular verse mentioned about when the mystic passes over the Milky Way by the illuminating Shushumna to reach the highest planet of Brahmaloka, he goes first to Vaishvanara, the deity of fire. So I'd like to backtrack just a very little before we finish on that verse, just to give you a little context. So we were speaking about the yogi, if one desires to leave the world, one should acquire scientific knowledge, be situated in God consciousness, and extinguish material desires. That's we're talking about here. All material desires, otherwise gross material desires. So then one can move higher to the next dimension of Mahaloka, Jana, Tapa, and Satya. All that are contained within one realm we call Satya. So we have Patala, Marcha, and Svarga. These are three divisions. Or we also have the words Bu, Bhuva, and Sva. Satya being the topmost. So it mentions that one should block the life holes, specifically the anus, and move the life air upwards throughout the body, move the consciousness via the prana, move it through the circles of vortices of energy, the chakra system in the body. And one has to, it's said that they're called the 6 primary places. So they are connected to the 6 islands of the universe before we get to Pushkara, of course, the 7th. Or you could say if they start with Jambudvip, then Pushkara is the 7th. Because we would start in the lower base chakras. So you got to move up the life air from the base chakra to the navel, the stomach area, then to the heart, the chest, from there to the throat, the roof of the palate, and then to the place between the eyebrows and then the top of the head. This is the idea that's been explained by Sukadev. And you can then reach the cerebral hole in the top of the head, and you can go to Brahmaloka, or you can go further than Brahmaloka, which is a place within Satya. So we say it's got, I mentioned Brahmaloka has 2 sides to it. So the other side is Brahman. And to enter that Brahman, one enters a certain place, and then at the time of dissolution, universal dissolution, otherwise one dissolves all of one's material elements, earth, air, fire, water, and then ether. And then one can go to the Brahma Jyoti, and one can be with the Lord in the spiritual world. So text 22 mentions, however, if a yogi maintains a desire for material enjoyments, like any of the higher planets up to Brahmaloka, or the 8-fold perfections, which is the mystic yoga system. There are 8 primary, and I think there's 18 in total. Or one can have travel in outer space with the Vihyasis, or any one of the millions of planets. Millions of planets here means millions of places of residence. We have planetary systems, and within that planetary systems there are so many divisions of places where we can live. So then you have to take away the materially molded mind and senses. That means what modes you're operating under, then you will operate under those again when you finish. So I mentioned there are different islands that are limiting our progression in the universe. So they're meant to limit us. And if you want to go past, beyond those islands, it's not possible to go in a mechanical device unless you're very strong, because other people live there and other people may object to you coming through their islands. So the safe way as an individual is to use the yogic path. And that yogic path is called the Shushumna. Shushumna is the inner nadis, the Indriyas, and the Brahma, the Shushumna, the path of light. Externally there is a word called the Milky Way. So this Milky Way is the space that's, if you like, what's the right word? Delineating, no, showing that we have this pathway that leads to the higher realms of the universe that we know as heaven. So there's earth, outer space, and then there's the heavenly realms. So let's read this text 24. Or text 23 mentions that the materialists, they're limited to where they can go. They're restricted. But the transcendentalists, they're not limited. They can move around freely. So we find in the case of the 4 Kumaras, they were so elevated they could even go to the transcendental kingdom and knock on the gates of the Lord and request entrance. And there's a very nice story there, which the doorkeepers were so surprised that they stopped the four Kumaras, and because they were a little taken off guard. So they were trying to do their duty, and but this was showing them that transcendentalists, even in the material world, that are still in the material bodies, like the four Kumaras, they can also travel to the spiritual kingdom. And we know about the 9 Yogandras, descendants of King Nabi and children of Lord Rishabdev. We know that they live for an extremely long time, so they can go to any planet in the material world. They also can go to Brahmaloka and Satyaloka, so they can live for an extremely long time. And I'll discuss what happens at that time. It's a yogic procedure where you go to these higher dimensions in your body of mind, and you acquire a similar body when you're there. And then when you enter back here, you'll get again the gross physical body, which will be replicated because it'll be of the same mindset that you left. You'll always get a body according to your mindset. Therefore, it's very important to live your life spiritually, so that at the time of death, when you're tested, your mindset is fixed and you're balanced, equipoised, and you can attain a very good destination. So text 24 says, O king, when such a mystic passes over the Milky Way by the illuminating Shushumna to reach the highest planet, Brahmaloka, he goes first to Vaishvanara, the planet of the deity of fire, wherein he becomes completely cleansed of all contaminations. And thereafter, he still goes higher to the circle of Shishumara to relate with Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. So, very nice verse here. So, we're talking about the highest destination is Brahmaloka, and the path to it, it's mentioned Milky Ways, but it's mentioned via the illuminating Shushumna. So that's the internal path through the Brahmanadi, the central Brahmanadi that runs internally. Therefore, we need to understand these inner meditations on Shabda Brahman, the ones I mentioned in the introduction. By the way, if you're following these series and you didn't fully look through the introduction talks that I give, please go back and have a look. Although the quality might not be so good, I'm not sure, and sometimes I may slip up because I was trying to read from the computer. But the points of what I was saying are very important to understand, so you can go forwards on this very smoothly. So when a person desires to go to the higher planets, to what we call heaven in the material world, to the heavenly regions, first he goes to a place called Vaishvanara, which we're informed is the deity of fire. So then you become cleansed of all your contaminations. In other words, what is the contamination? The material body. So we may see this as the sun planet, or if the sun planet is a place of heavenly enjoyment in this side before Svarga, then it may be another planet, and that planet is named Vaishvanara Loka, and this is the deity of fire. So in other words, it's a similar region. Before you go to shed your material gross body, you have to go through a purification process. So like gold, when you want to get the pure carats of gold where it's no contaminations, then you have to smelt it more and more until you get rid of all the impurities. And similarly on Vaishvanara, you end up with a body, obviously, that can take fire, that's not affected by fire, and whatever impurities are there from another body go, they vanish. And you have to be strong enough to hold it together with your mind and your consciousness. You have to hold everything together through the fixed intelligence. So you must be a good yogi to follow this path. So then from there you go still higher to the circle of Shishumara to relate with Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. So this is the supersoul in the heart, and externally this is the center, what some people may call Dhruva Loka, or the pole star, which all the sun and all luminaries and all planets, they all revolve around that. In fact, the entire universe turns. And it's turning because Meru is fixed, or the Himalayas is fixed. So Meru is underneath this Shishumara, this pole star. Meru is underneath there, and the universe above is turning and turning. So the Bhumandala, that stays still. That's not turning. What's turning is the planets that are in outer space. And that actually is one proof that goes to show that we don't live on a ball that's floating in outer space, because Himalayas and Meru are fixed. If they move, it's very slightly, but the Earth itself doesn't move. It goes up and down because the Garba Ocean lifts up, so to speak, and floods the earthly regions. But it's not that it's spinning around anywhere. The planets are spinning around. Text 25. This Shishumara is the pivot for the turning of the complete universe, and it is called the navel of Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. The yogi alone goes beyond this circle of Shishumara and attains the planet Mahaloka, where purified saints like Bhrigu enjoy a duration of life of 4,300,000,000 solar years. This planet is worshipable even for the saints who are transcendently situated. So we're talking about Mahaloka, which is worshipable. And saints like Bhrigu Muni, who are progenitors in this world, they have a very long lifespan, and they go to these places. They reside, shall we say, in these places. So the number here, let's see which is the number is 4,300,000,000 solar years. So this solar years is discussing the solar years of Kali Yuga on our earth. It is not discussing other solar years. It is, but they are referenced in a different way, so there'll be a different number for those places. So why this place? Because this is a point of degradation before people go into the animal species, you may say. So this Kali Yuga is very special. Not this Kali Yuga, but the concept of Kali Yuga, because universal time is calculated according to this. When Lord Brahma is said to have 311,040,000,000,000 years, there would be years of Kali Yuga, but it's not always Kali Yuga. We know that there are 4 yugas, even in our tiny earth. There are 4 yugas. So we have Kali, Dwapara, Treta, and Satya. Or we have, going the other way, we have Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and then Kali yugas. And each one is larger, 10 times larger. And therefore, if they were calculated according to Satya Yuga, there would be a completely different calculation. So the universe itself the 12 hours of Brahma is 4,320,000,000 years, whereas the lifespan in Mahaloka is 4,300,000,000. So we see that's just within the lifespan of the universe. Therefore, the extra years of the universe will be devastation periods. And we see that there are 14 Manus within every day of Brahma. And the demigods, the highest demigods, they live for the same length of time of Manu. So there are 14 major demigods. So they have a certain lifespan. I think it's 306 million years, something like that. And you'll multiply that by 14. So if I do that calculation, 306 multiplied by 14, we'll get 4284, and Kali Yuga is 432. So there'll be some years left over for devastation periods in between the change of the Manus, etc. So this circle of Shishumara, only the yogi can go beyond this, because, as I've said, there are two dimensions. I'll touch on this briefly now, but I'll go into it in depth later. Sadaputa, who's a good scientist, good devotee, he mentioned that there are many dimensions on Jambudvip Island, and this simply isn't correct. Srimad Bhagavatam explains that Jambudvip is an earthly region where people from the higher planets come down, and some of the beings are said to live like heavenly denizens and live for 10,000 years. But that doesn't mean they're on a different dimension. It just simply means that they have a different sun and solar system, shall we say planetary system, the zodiac, the sun, moon and star system, that are creating a different time span for those guys. But it's clearly mentioned that it's an earthly realm, Jambudvip. And of course, the higher regions of Meru, where these beings descend from, they're on a different time frame to the areas on Jambudvip, on the flat continuum of Jambudvip. But that's a different thing. Meru is where Lord Brahma lives, Shatakumbhi. And for Lord Brahma, the sun is always overhead. So that means the actual sun in outer space, and it's always midday for Brahma. So that's a completely different situation. So the universe lives for 12 hours of Lord Brahma, which is 4,320,000,000 years of Kali Yuga. Text 26. At the time of the final devastation of the complete universe, a flame of fire emanates from the mouth of Ananta. The yogi sees all the planets of the universe burning to ashes, and thus he leaves for Satyaloka by aeroplanes used by the great purified souls. The duration of life in Satyaloka is calculated to be 15,480,000,000,000 years. So this number is not just haphazardly thrown together. The whole universe is got something in my mouth, something. I'll just wash my hands. Very good. I'm back. Something in the water there. So this number, 15,480,000,000,000 years for the denizens who live in Satyaloka. Now, if you were to take the lifespan of people on Mahaloka, 4,300,000,000 years, and you were to multiply that by a circle, 360, then you would get this number 15480, but with one zero short. So you have to multiply it not by 360 but by 360 and then to the power of 10. So you can multiply it by 3,600. And I'm going to explain to you exactly where we get that power of 10 as we get into that mathematics section of the Vedas on time. Meaning on time, meaning when it's discussing time throughout the universe. And that part's a little difficult to understand for some people. So I'll try at that time to have some whiteboard so I can show you the numbers, and I'll do my best. So you see there's a circle in heaven, just like there's a circle in earth. In earth, Bhumandala, there are 7 circles. So if we begin in Kali Yuga on our earth, people will live for 100 years. On Plakshadweep, they'll live for 1,000 years. On Shalmali Dweep, they'll live for 10,000 years. So you can see that there are multiples of 10 going out in the universe. And there is a reason for this. All of time in the universe is on specific numbers. Those numbers are the 24 hours in the day, so 2 and 4. And the 360 degrees of space. So we have the male and the female, always the yin and yang, and we have the combination of both of them gives us all time frames within the universe. And once when I presented this to a member of the TOVP, he mentioned that my mathematics was childish. And I replied, this is not my mathematics, it's that of the Bhagavatam, so you'll have to accept it or otherwise you won't understand Srimad Bhagavatam. It's really that simple. Everything is on these time frames, which is how the day is split up into hours, minutes, seconds, how the year is split up, how everything is divided into the 12 hours of the day, the 12 hours of the night, the 24 hours of the day and night. You find that the Yuga seasons are the same. 12 by 360 gets you the 432 number. And that will be the 12, and then you double that, you get the 864 number, which is the next Yuga out over 432,000 years of Kali Yuga, 864,000 years of Dwapara Yuga, etc., etc. All of these numbers are based, and I'm going to explain them all, but it's not good to try and explain them now. So I'll just mention that we're talking about a yogi here who would like to go through the universe to reach the higher planets. Text 27. In that planet of Satyaloka, there is neither bereavement, nor old age, nor death. There is no pain of any kind, and therefore there are no anxieties, save that sometimes, due to consciousness, there is a feeling of compassion for those unaware of the process of devotional service, who are subjected to unsurpassable miseries in the material world. So the beings on Satyaloka, they're very detached from our present situation, and they feel compassion for us. Therefore, they descend from time to time and try and assist us, because they feel they have a great yearning to help people. They feel the pain of others. They have empathy towards others. We devotees on small levels, we don't have this yet. We have to develop this compassion for other living entities, these Jivadoya. It's very important to understand that the saints are here to teach this. And these beings on Satyaloka apparently it's strong in them. There may be like a mothering nature where they feel the pain of the children. And of course, you don't know this yet, but in my thesis on the universe, we've never left Brahmaloka, Satyaloka. Everyone is in Brahmaloka, and we're here in splintered versions of ourself. So in other words, when a being in the highest realm has an affection for some people down here, they're actually having affection for themselves, because it's a splintered aspect of themselves that is down here suffering and messing up. And similarly, in the highest concept, we're all part of the Lord, and so we're messing up, and we should be with the Lord as one loving family, so to speak. Of course, a Chincha Beta Tattva, we're simultaneously one with the Lord and different from the Lord. So we still have a rasa there in the spiritual world that's separate from the Lord. So, text 28 says, after reaching such a loka, the devotee is specifically able to be incorporated fearlessly by the subtle body in an identity similar to that of the gross body. And one after another, he gradually attains stages of existence from earthly to watery, fiery, glowing, airy, until he reaches the ethereal stage. So this is a very good summary here. It's a very good round-off of what's happening. And it's good for you to visualize this also. We have the gross material continuum called Bu Mandala, Bu. And also there are beings living under us in the lower planets, and they're also part of Bu Mandala in some aspects. They're just on the underside of our island. And you may say, well, they're heavenly regions. Well, so are the people on Pushkara Dweep, on Shalmali Dweep. There are demigods living in all regions of the universe, etc. But they're predominantly areas of a certain type of person. But there are beings, heavenly beings, in all regions. So similarly, on Atalaloka, for an example, there are demigods living there like Bala, the son of Bala Maharaj, Baladanava. Shall we say Baladanava, who is the son of Maya Danava. Sorry, now I'm clear. So Maya Danava is a very exalted personality in the demoniac world. And he has a son called Bala, Moloch, his name in some traditions. And he likes sacrifices of children. He likes blood. And therefore the beings of our earth at the moment who are in charge, they're offering children as sacrifices to Moloch. Because we have connection with Atala Loka at this time. So they think beings like Bala, Dhanava, are to be God because they're very powerful. But actually they're just like demigods, but in the demoniac, the opposite side of that. So we have good and bad. So we have dark and light. And we still may have the same names for them. I don't know if you'd call them warlocks or whatever, powerful wizards, something. So there, I'll explain a little more about that as we get into the fifth canto. So after reaching Satyaloka, we're talking about the heavenly places here, the devotee is incorporated by the subtle body in an identity similar to that of his gross body. So what we should understand, what I'm trying to explain to you here from Sukadev's teachings here, is that we had the level of Bu Mandala across. And if you go inside your body, inside the atom, in meditation, in yogic meditation, and you raise your prana, you raise your kundalini from the base chakra to this solar plexus chakra, then to the navel, then you go up to the chest, the heart, etc. You're opening these centers, and you're then qualified to attain that place. And that's what's been said here. So you go first to Vaishvanara. This is the first place by the Shushumna Nadi. So you go internally, not externally. There's a light. The light is in Shushumna, or the Milky Way. Externally, it's called. So it's a light, and you follow that, and you lift your consciousness. You lift it up the body. Then this is when you want to leave your body to attain the next destination. You may have practiced it in life. You may have visited these places in yogic meditations. But when you leave the body, there is a specific way of reaching these places. So first you'll get an earthly body. We have that. Then you'll get a watery body. Like I mentioned, the next is the moon planet. And then you'll get a fiery planet, a fiery body, the sun planet after that. Then you'll go to glowing, Mahaloka, airy, or maybe glowing is Vaishvanara. Then you go to airy, and you remember I mentioned about the Platonic solids, the icosahedron, dodecahedron, etc., which is symbolizing these elements. And we also have other aspects to understand, which I'll explain as we go in that. Not just the 5 material elements, but there are 7 islands. Just like there is 7 chakras. It's called Sat Chakra because we have the beginning chakra, then we have 6 more to pierce. So you'll actually get a body according to the meditations in your mind. So according to the subtle body, then you'll get an identity like the gross body. So if you, for example, would like to be a certain type of a personality and you're fixing on that, you're fixated on that personality, and you're focused, your attention, you're lifting your mind up, you want to be a good person, you want to be, you'll get a certain body befitting. So scientists are studying the atom at the moment, trying to split the atom, trying to understand what's in it. So they're finding that they're just splitting space, and they're trying to understand, are they splitting space or are they splitting time? Actually, there are beings in there. There is an entire universe in there. There is another dimension of life in there. And you can split time by the mind. You can use the mind in meditation to split time, and then you will attain a body in a specific area accordingly. And it's mentioning that very plainly here, that you will get stages of existence. So you will have higher stages, higher and higher and higher. What are you doing? You're purifying the consciousness. Where is that consciousness going? It's going inward towards the atom, and then inside the atom is going to the spiritual world. The supersoul is inward, not outward. You need to go inside in meditation to reach the Lord. Finally, you'll reach the ethereal stage in Brahmaloka, and then you'll have the full lifespan of 311 trillion years, where you won't have Lord Brahma's lifespan, but you'll have something similar. And in Satyaloka, you'll have 15,480,000,000,000 years to perfect your life. So that's a general idea here. It's been told that how to leave the body. You remember the question that was asked by Maharaj Pariksit? So it's been answered in depth here, and you can follow this quite easily. It's not difficult to understand. So text 29, the devotee surpasses the subtle objects of different senses like aroma by smelling, the palate by tasting, vision by seeing forms, touching by contacting the vibrations of the ear by ethereal identification, and by the sense organs by material activities. So we're going down here in a hierarchy, and we can then go up from the earthly realm up to the next realm of the water sphere, and then to the fiery sphere, then to the glowing sphere, and then to the airy sphere, until we finally reach the ethereal level. And as we're going to each of them, we have to deposit these particular, what are they called? Senses and the sense objects. And the idea is that everything is within the universal form of the Lord, this Virat Rupa, and all the demigods in charge. There's a demigod in charge of smell, demigod in charge of sight, demigod in charge of sound, and you give that aspect that you've captured previously, you give that to the specific demigod. It then goes back to the totality of the Mahatattva, to the universal form of the Lord. And how do you give it back? By using it in its proper way to serve the Lord. So it's the Lord at the center of all of this conversation. It's not the person. It's not the person's ego who's going higher and higher. And the person's ego is getting smaller and smaller. He's becoming a servant. He becomes a servant of the people by becoming a servant of God. Therefore, everything gets reposed and placed back into its correct place to the Lord. So in other words, what are the ears for? What's the ethereal identification for? It's to understand and hear about the Lord. What is the sight for? It's to see the Lord. Otherwise it's not sight, otherwise it's not hearing. So if you want them in the correct place and you want to go higher, you have to give them to in other words, you have to be a servant of the Lord. That's the whole point of these discussions here. Text 30, the devotee thus surpassing the gross and the subtle forms of coverings, enters the plane of egoism. So there you remember I mentioned there are different coverings within the universe. There's 7. The gross and subtle forms of covering enters. Do you remember I said they were not getting a bigger ego like with Indra. At one point you have to get smaller and smaller. So then he enters the plane of egoism. Actually, not false egoism, but actual egoism, where you meet Sadashiva, where you actually meet the Lord in charge of ego, and the Lord is pleased with you because you've become a servant of the Supreme Lord, of His Master, Lord Sankarshan. Hare Krishna, dear Lord. Take a drink. Enters a plane of egoism, and in that status he merges the material modes of nature in this point of neutralization, and thus reaches egoism in goodness. After this, all egoism is merged in the Mahatattva, and he comes to the point of pure self-realization. So this continuation of what I'm saying, he merges the modes of nature. So what is the modes? You have goodness, and then you have ignorance. And in between that is passion. So passion comes about via the interplay of dark and light. So anything to do with dark is a contamination. And what we're doing here in this process being described, according to the question of Parikshit Maharaj, he wanted an answer. So he's getting a very good answer. What does a person do at the time of death? What does he hear? What does he think about? What does he meditate upon? Of course, he meditates upon the Lord. He's asking one of the most pure persons in the universe a question. First thing that's going to be answered is the Lord. Everything is going to be connected to the Lord. And in actual fact, Maharaj Parikshit was also connected to the Lord in many ways. As a child, he would always be with the Lord in the deity form, and as an adult, and in the womb even, he was saved by the Lord, and as an adult, he was always thinking of the Lord, and we've seen even when he was cursed, he immediately thought, the Supreme Lord has overtaken me in the form of time. Let me accept the Lord's mercy upon me. He didn't hesitate. Sorry, you'll see me touching my hair. What's happening is I'm in a very hot environment here, and to please you people out there, I've closed all the windows and turned off all the fans so that the noise isn't disrupted. So for your pleasure, I am very hot and the sweat is coming. Therefore, you'll see me twidgeting and fidgeting. I apologize, but it's because sweat is moving around the head, etc. The temperature is around about 37 degrees centigrade here. But I will voluntarily suffer for your pleasure. I look forward to going back outside where it's a little cooling breeze. But in the meantime, I'm happy to suffer if that brings you happiness, and you can learn what Sukadeva is teaching us here. So we're talking about a person who is going inside the heart. He's going via the inner nadis. He's balancing out the material modes. He's removing the impurities. He's removing his passion. He's giving everything in the mode of goodness to different demigods, to the Mahatattva, etc. He's merging everything, but along the way, it could be one life. And by the way, previously I mentioned Duryodhana was doing this, and I actually meant Dhritarashtra, his father. He did this yogic meditation. I'm not sure, it doesn't mention how high he got. We know that the Lord was in front of him, and he still didn't accept the Lord as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So obviously he didn't make it back to Godhead, but I'm sure he made it to a higher destination. And from that point, in other words, you can go higher and higher. So you can reach these higher abodes. You can reach any of the places on Bhumandala, any of the islands, and you can continue your life. You can reach different parts of Meru even, and be with the demigods. Demigods are holiday islands and etc. on Meru. And humans also live on Meru, the humans of Satya Yuga. They live on the lower slopes of Meru, and they have a longer lifespan. And those humans are sages, by the way. They're not like you and I, they're not fools messing around in Kali Yuga. They don't see Kali Yuga. So then you can go after the outer island of Pushkara Dweep. No need to go downwards, you can ignore that place. You can go upwards, and you can go to Mahajana, Tapa, Satya. And each time you can become a little more purified, so you're working off the ignorance and the passion. You're going more and more towards goodness. And in the material world, you don't have complete goodness. Suddhasattva's pure goodness. So you have items, specks of contamination. Just like if you have 12 o'clock, and that's, you may say, the analogy for pure goodness. Well, one moment, 1 millisecond of a fraction, 1 nanoparticle, 1 nanosecond of time move forwards, then you have some form of contamination. And that goes all the way till you come right back. And then for one moment of time, whatever that time is, you may have 12 o'clock again, and that's the analogy for pure goodness. So in the material world, that happens when we have the retraction of all material elements. But the nearest person to that is, of course, Lord Brahma. Praise Lord Brahma. Such a wonderful soul has created all this world for us, and he is giving us the opportunity to learn about the Lord. Such a nice father we have, everyone. So this person merges the material modes into neutralization, and he reaches egoism in goodness. This is Sadashiva. All egoism is then merged in the Mahatattva, and then one comes to the point of pure self-realization. Realization of the self as a luminous spiritual being, not as any type of material being whatsoever. But even after that, there are more stages of growth. And although I'll shake my head at this point because it's so amazing, but we can reach even higher than all of these stages simply by being a surrendered servant of Nityananda Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Gosai, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, they're both Mahaprabhus to me, always. They're our Istadev, they're our masters, always our masters. So, text 31. Only the purified soul can attain, can attain the perfection of associating with the personality of Godhead in complete bliss and satisfaction in his constitutional state. That's a spiritual state. Whoever is able to renovate such devotional perfection is never again attracted by this material world, and he never returns. So if you can, the pinnacle of everyone's devotional service, it was first attained by Lord Brahma, is to meet the Lord face to face, is to actually have pleased the Lord so much that one meets the Lord. And there's a very peculiar personality in Srimad Bhagavatam who actually met the Lord face to face. He was a son of Lord Brahma. And even after meeting the Lord, still he was bewildered. And he misunderstood the Lord's instructions. And then he offended a great devotee. And we can only see this as the Lord's pastimes, as the pastimes of the great Daksha Maharaj and the great Narad Muni, great Lord Shiva. We can only see this as their pastimes in order to educate us lower beings, because truly Daksha Maharaj must be such a great soul to be born the son of Lord Brahma, to be chosen as the progenitor of mankind, to meet the Lord face to face, to offer such prayers that he pleased the Lord, and then afterwards to again be covered in because of Swa-agata family connections, and then offend Narad. And luckily for Daksha, Narad took no offense, so it's a very nice pastime, and there was no reaction for that. So he was a purified soul, and I'm sure when this material sojourn is up, he will never return to the material world again. Text 32, Your Majesty Maharaj Pariksit, know that all I have described in reply to your proper inquiry is just according to the version of the Vedas, and it is eternal truth. This was described personally by Lord Krishna unto Brahma, with whom the Lord was satisfied upon being properly worshipped. Yes, that's what I mentioned also, that the pinnacle was given to Lord Brahma of seeing the Lord, and Lord Brahma then attained these, can you imagine it? These exact instructions that we fools are hearing and reciting. How we have the audacity, I don't know, but we fools are hearing this and reciting these holiest of all instructions. They were given by the Supreme Lord himself at the beginning of time to Lord Brahma, because Lord Brahma pleased the Lord. What have we done to please the Lord? Nothing. So how is it possible? Only by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all the great saints and sages, and especially Sri Narad Muni and Srila Vyasadeva. So Sukadeva is saying, I'm explaining this exactly as I've had it explained to me, and exactly as Lord Brahma has had it explained to him. So the disciplic succession in this regard goes Lord Krishna, Lord Brahma, Sri Narad, Vyasadeva, Veda Vyasadeva, I want to find the right term, Veda Vyasadeva, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, Maharaj Pariksit, and in the interim we're hearing Sutta Goswami, because Sutta Goswami was there at that time, and then we're hearing it again told by Vyasadeva, and then we're hearing it from Vyasadeva. So you're going to hear some words of Vyasadeva. It's clear when Vyasadeva is writing soon. And he's going to give us a summary of these teachings. But now we're coming to the end of the chapter. I'm just scanning forward, see how many texts. We're on 32, there is text 37. So we're coming to the end of this chapter 2. and we're very fortunate. Text 33. For those who are wandering in the material universe, there is no more auspicious means of deliverance than that what is aimed at in the direct devotional service of Lord Krishna. Om Tat Sat. That needs no explanation. Hear it one more time. For those wandering in the material universe, the most auspicious means of deliverance is direct devotional service of Lord Krishna. We will, for the moment, because we are impure, we will serve the spiritual master. Jai. We will serve the acharyas. Jai. And we will do what we can to serve the devotees. Text 34. The great personality Brahma, with great attention and concentration of the mind, studied the Vedas 3 times, and after scrutinizingly examining them, he has ascertained that attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the highest perfection of religion. That was quite a wordy sentence. Long sentence there. So Lord Brahma, with great attention and concentration of the mind, so he was focusing, and he studied the Vedas 3 times, and then he scrutinized them, he examined them, and he tried to find what is the pinnacle, what is the main essence of all of this. The pinnacle, the essence of all of this Vedic literature is devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Text 35. The Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is in every living being along with the individual soul. And this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence. So, the Lord is there within everyone, and we can use the intelligence to understand this and to study scripture. We can perceive the Lord using our intelligence and the mind. We can perceive the facts that the Lord is the all-in-all. And from that, from taking help of the intelligence, we can act in devotional service to please the Lord. This is the whole point. And then the summary given here. O King, it is therefore essential that every human being hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, always and everywhere. Yeah. Rupa Goswami teaches that one should always remember Krishna. Anukulyasya sankalpa. Always remember Krishna and never forget the Lord. These are the nice verses from Rupa Goswami we should remember. Every human being should hear about, glorify, and remember the Lord, always and everywhere. So don't forget, you should glorify the Lord. Don't forget. Remember, in other words, to glorify the Lord. It is your opportunity to serve in the Lord's Sankirtan movement right now, a golden opportunity. Why is it golden? Because we are on a cusp of a time where humanity is going through a difficult time, and there are 2 forces on earth at the moment, light and dark. The Lord was here first, remember that. The Sankirtan movement of the Lord was here first. You need no money to perform the Sankirtan movement. Who came along just after that? The cheat and lying scientists pretended that the earth is a globe floating around in space. Just after the Lord was here. Then you have these laws that are invented. All invented to explain away the Lord via materialism. It's got to such a point that they're stifling the people. They're making their move right now on earth. Be aware that there's always been, since the Lord came here, there's always been dark forces who are challenging this Sankirtan movement of the Lord, always. And now they are making their move. They are supremely strong. We are supremely weak. Are we supremely weak when we have the Lord on our side? It's time to stand up and show just how strong we actually are. Those who drink through oral reception, fully filled with the nectarian message of Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees, purify the polluted aim of life known as material enjoyment, and thus go back to Godhead, to the lotus feet of the Lord. That is a benediction given to you at this final text, 37 of chapter 2 in Srimad Bhagavatam. And you should take it very sincerely that the Lord is within your heart at every moment and you can serve the Lord. So we'll say thank you very much. I apologize for being a little long-winded there at times in that chapter. And I'll see you in chapter 3. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, and Srila Prabhupada. Ki Jai.